Hey there everyone, and welcome back to Utility Sports. In today's video, we're going to be doing a 3-round mock draft here for the New York Jets. Obviously, I'm a Jets fan. He is a Jaguars fan. So it's quite an interesting battle going on here for the number 1 overall pick. And the Jets do have 5 selections here in the first 3 rounds, so there's going to be quite a few positions that they can fill in. They have a lot of needs, obviously, so it's going to be something worth monitoring. But before we jump into this video, I just want to remind all of you guys to subscribe. We did hit 1,200 subscribers just yesterday, so we'd love to have you guys aboard as we continue growing here. We do have some merchandise, actually. That'll be in the description. You can go check that out there. Also follow us on the socials. We have an Instagram, a Twitter, and also a TikTok, so make sure to go check those out. Post on there every once in a while, so make sure you're followed on all those platforms. And let's jump right into this, Austin. Take it away here with the second pick, kind of where you think the Jets should consider going, possible avenues, and what you would do if you were the New York Jets.
So there's a lot of decisions that need to be made in the New York Jets front office. Clearly, obviously you have Sam Darnold there right now, and the discussion would be completely different if they were at the number 1 spot. As we've known, there's been a lot going on this week. Obviously, you have to make some decisions. Do you think that Justin Fields is a franchise guy? Do you think Sam Darnold could be serviceable for a couple of more years?
Stop the cap.
Or do you believe in him long term? Or do you believe Zach Wilson could be a franchise guy, Trey Lance? There's a lot of different factors that go into it. And you being a Jets fan, where do you want them to go and where do you think they will go?
Right. I would definitely love for them to trade down from the number 2 spot at this point. I just think that there's not a big drop off really in the quarterback play that you can get. You know, I think Wilson's a guy who's really enamoring to watch, but at this point, you know, I'm not sold that he's going to be a better player than Sam Darnold or someone really worth building around. And the Jets have a lot of needs, so I'd really be interested in trading down. But for the purpose of this mock, we're not going to be doing that here. I think Penei Sewell would be interesting. We went and grabbed Mekhi Becton last year in the first round. Grabbing another franchise tackle could be a real building piece for this team. Micah Parsons is a positional need at linebacker. Quite frankly, there's a lot of different ways I could go. I think second overall is a little high for Rousseau. What do you kind of think here for the Jets, and where would you want them to go, I guess?
Yeah, so looking at it from the Jets perspective, obviously there's a ton of holes on the team, and there's no specific position where you say that's what we have to address right now. Obviously, quarterback's the most important, but at that point, I would just like to say that I think that the Jets have a lot of options. Obviously, that they have the Sewell route, they have the Fields route, they have Wilson, but going from the Jets perspective, you want to be able to put your quarterback in a position to have success, right? So if you do end up drafting a quarterback with the selection, there's still not a lot to build around for this team. How much of an upgrade is, you know, Justin Fields going to be? He has some deficiencies. Let's be honest with ourselves. We saw in the Indiana game, we saw in the Northwestern game, you know, 2 teams that were top 25 opponents, he had quite a bit of struggles with, but he does have some pretty tremendous upside as well. So that's something you have to determine if you are a fan of the New York Jets. Do you think that this team can really develop the quarterback and elevate him? And do you think he can elevate you? Obviously, the Jets don't have a ton on offense to really write home about, right? Denzel Mims is a nice receiver, but obviously, like Jamison Crowder, let's be honest with ourselves, he's not a top-tier weapon. The tight end room's pretty weak in general. Obviously, the running back room has got some things to figure out. Offensive line, they're working on it. But if you are the New York Jets at this point, I think that you really need to consider drafting a non-quarterback, or if you have a nice trade in line for Sam Darnold, leverage that. I would leverage that and then just take the quarterback, and hopefully you could trade down. But now sitting here at 2, I'm going to let you make the selection. Where do you think that they will go at the end of the day?
Right, like you had mentioned, the whole Sam Darnold situation is kind of what could leverage this situation here. Joe Douglas is not the GM, obviously, that drafted Sam Darnold. He could be looking to go in a different direction. You could see a team maybe like Indianapolis make a move for Darnold here. And I think Fields is the guy that would maybe jump off. Wilson would be a guy that I could see Joe Douglas being interested in. But at this point, I'm going to stick in the trenches. I think the Jets are going to grab Penei Sewell, second overall, right in front of the Cincinnati Bengals if they do not move down. Personally, I think the Panthers would be a team to watch to move up, but I think Sewell is a team here, or is the player here at 2.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. At this point, you're just going to have to build around the guy that you have currently, because if you're not the biggest believer in the quarterbacks at the top of this draft, obviously we have quarterbacks at the top of the draft every single year that everybody will deem a franchise guy. But if you don't feel comfortable, if you don't feel like you have the team around the quarterback, it's not going to be a success story, especially when Adam Gase is your coach at this point.
And wow, moving here into pick 26 now, we had Trey Lance fall all the way down. So this would be maybe the best case scenario for the New York Jets if they did have a trade lined up for Sam Darnold. You'd be able to grab that quarterback. I'm sure that's probably jumping off the screen here to you. We did see quite a few wide receivers go as it was simulating here in this mock draft. What would be the position you'd probably look at first here if all things were equal?
Yeah, so under that assumption, you really like to see Trey Lance that is still here. I don't think that's going to happen. Let's really preface that at this point. You could also look at a running back. Najee Harris would be a phenomenal addition to this team, really give you an established run game at this point. I think interior offensive line, if you draft Sewell and then you come back with a road grader essentially in Wyatt Davis, oh my goodness, that offensive line is looking really, really promising at that point. So under that assumption, there's a couple of other nice players at this point, but to me, it'd be clear and obvious if this situation were to happen that you would select Trey Lance. Not a lot of times you would see that, but there are some times where a quarterback will randomly fall in pre-draft things, and that could be Trey Lance. I don't deem it likely.
Right, you're looking at Johnny Manziel fell all the way to 22 in his draft. Obviously, he didn't pan out, but going into that, many people thought he would be possibly a top 10 pick, fell all the way down to 22 for the Browns. It happens. Sometimes QBs do fall. I think if this scenario did play out this way, I think Trey Lance would be the selection. I'm pretty sure Joe Douglas would almost run up the draft card to the podium himself at that point. But like you mentioned, I would really love Wyatt Davis, the addition of him to that offensive line. The Jets' strong point came with DeBrickashaw Ferguson at left tackle, Nick Mangold at center. You're getting kind of close to that again. If you have Wyatt Davis, Mekhi Becton, and also Penei Sewell on that offensive line, you've got three real building blocks there and a real strong piece now in front of Sam Darnold, who struggled being healthy. Like you had mentioned with Najee Harris, running back's a huge need. I mean, right now we're relying on Frank Gore and Ty Johnson week in, week out. Obviously, they performed a little bit over the last couple of weeks, but realistically moving forward, that can't be your running back room. Is there also check the cornerback room real quick? That's the one that I'm a little nervous about. We did see Eric Stokes go. This is kind of where it gets to the point where I don't know if this is worth grabbing a corner at this point. Shaun Wade's not necessarily the best fit for the New York Jets. They do have Brian Poole. At this point, they don't really need that slot corner as bad, and that's really what Shaun Wade presents himself as. You really need an outside guy there if you're the New York Jets, and it doesn't really seem like that's on the board here, so I think we can probably rule that out. And do you want to go with Trey Lance here?
Yeah, let's go under the assumption we are going to play it out as we see it. Obviously, Kyle Trask is also still here. Mac Jones is still here. Once again, I want to preface, I don't think Trey Lance will be here at this spot, but you never know with how the draft goes. There's a ton of chaos. It's really hard to mock because at the end of the day, a lot of the picks don't remain the same you can mock it all year long, but once the draft happens, it's pure chaos.
Right. And another big thing to watch here at this point, too, if you're the New York Jets, if maybe Trey Lance falls to maybe 16, 17, 18 with those 5 picks in the first 2 days of the NFL draft, maybe they leverage some of those assets to go back up and get that guy if they really want him. We probably wouldn't see them stick at 26 at that point. If he fell to maybe the 18 to 20 range, they'd probably jump back up to grab him. But getting him here at 26 is a no-brainer, in my opinion. And now we're at 34. And looking back kind of at what's on the board here, for the New York Jets, we have Elijah Vera Tucker is here, so we could go back with that interior offensive lineman. You had mentioned the tight end room is pretty weak. Pat Freiermuth from Penn State still here. Is there a specific position for you, Austin, that really sticks out? We talked about cornerback in the last selection.
Yeah, so once again, there's 2 that really, really stick out to me that's crucial for the New York Jets. I think tight end would be more of a luxury pick, I guess, but for me, it's about the cornerback room and also an edge. I do see the value in drafting an interior offensive lineman, but you really have to address the defense. So we're going to go real quick and take a look at what's available. Azeez Ojulari is a guy that I could definitely still see being a second-round pick at the very top of the second round. Aiden Hutchinson. These are all guys that I see as options at this point. Obviously, Darian Kendrick could be an option here as well as Asante Samuel Jr. I think it's really between one of those two. It all depends on preference for the New York Jets. I think that, both positions are very, very valuable for them to grab with this selection.
Yeah, really looking at the drop off here. I think cornerback's a little bit more of a need position compared to the edge. And edge is a big need, don't get me wrong. I've been saying that for the last 4 or 5 years. But I think at this point, maybe grabbing an outside corner, because in that division, you're going to have to contend with Stephon Diggs. Week in, week out, you obviously have to deal with Devontae Parker. The Dolphins are very likely going to draft a receiver in the first 2 rounds this year as well. You really need to beef up that secondary, and I think right now would be a spot to do it at pick 34. Austin, is there a specific one you have a preference for?
Yeah, I mean, I like a lot of these corners up here, but I do believe that Kendrick is the best one of this group. So we will go ahead and select him with the 34th overall selection. I really like what we've been able to do with the draft so far. Obviously, we took Kendrick with the last one. We ended up getting Lance at 26, which was an absolute steal. And then obviously Sewell at 2. You are really building a great foundation for this team. Lance is obviously a high upside quarterback. Sewell's, one of those guys that is going to translate to be, he has a very, very high floor. I think he is going to be a very, very good player. Obviously, you have to get the corner in Kendrick. And now we're sitting here at pick 66. Let's take a look once again what's on the board, some of the options for our team here on this mock, where you're going to hit all prospects. So something I do want to bring up, we do have Carlos Basham sitting here, one of those guys that you were able to actually wait it out. You got the corner of your choice. Now you come back with a guy that was seen as a potential late first round pick in Carlos Basham. I think that's the obvious pick at the selection. Once again, Quincy Roche is another guy that you could consider at this spot.
Yeah, definitely. You're looking at addressing that edge need, something we've obviously been clearly identifying and really addressing here at this point. This is, I think, the way that GM Joe Douglas is really going to go about his business this draft. He's going to address the needs. He's obviously getting to work with this team, see kind of the issues that he inherited in this roster, and he's addressing them. Kendrick is going to be a much improved outside corner to what they have currently with Bless Austin. Trey Lance is obviously going to be a long-term project QB for them to replace Sam Darnold regarding, depending on what happens with the trade there. Sewell's an obvious upgrade over George Fant at tackle. And now at this point, you're looking at Basham or Roche. Austin, as you're the draft expert here, which one of these two would you prefer for the New York Jets?
Yeah, I think Carlos Basham is the better prospect right now. I think that makes a lot of sense. If you're the New York Jets, you have to start generating some pass rush. Obviously, you have Quentin Williams on your interior, your defensive line, but outside of him, there's not a lot of guys that can really get to the passer. And like he doesn't do it at a consistent or, very, very good level. So at this point, you do want to go and get Carlos Basham to round out, the top of your draft, preferably. Hopefully the Jets could actually leverage a trade and would be able to pick up more picks, but under the assumption that nobody else will be selected. I think that getting Sewell at 2 is great. I really do. But now we're coming up to pick 89. That is our next selection. Where do you think we go from here?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of different places to look. You've seen we kind of went with a balance of trenches with Basham and Sewell, and also some skill positions with Trey Lance at quarterback, Darian Kendrick at corner. I think something to monitor here would maybe be a tight end or running back. Both of those are really big needs offensively. Obviously, you want to give Trey Lance some weapons, possibly wide receiver as well. You had mentioned at the start of this, Denzel Mims was their second round pick last year. I think he's got a lot of potential, but you really don't have a lot around him. Jamison Crowder is going to be entering the final year of his deal. He's an okay slot receiver, but he doesn't really give you, too much outside of that. The tight end room is very weak as well. You don't have a lot of weapons for any QB that's there. So I think that's kind of the direction the Jets will be looking to go here at this point, Austin.
Yeah, I think so. I think we've addressed some of the really, really crucial needs in corner and edge. Obviously, you have to have a weapon for your new quarterback in Trey Lance. I like Kadarius Toney. Kadarius Toney is one of the most explosive players in the country. We've seen it week in and week out with him. Ultimate game-changing player. Him and Kyle Pitts have been phenomenal at the University of Florida. Big reason why Kyle Trask is having this successful season that he's having is because of those two big-time weapons. I don't think Toney gets enough love for what he's done for that offense. And definitely he's a game-changing element guy. He's a guy that does not need to, necessarily run the most crisp route in order to gain yards, because he's able to do a lot after the catch. Obviously, Denzel Mims can be a red zone threat, but you need a guy that can really catch it underneath and make some stuff happen. I think Toney's a great fit.
Yeah, definitely. You're looking at helping Trey Lance here. You got a dynamic QB now. You're getting a dynamic playmaker out in Toney out of Florida. And you're looking at a much improved Jets team here, using their first 5 selections of the draft at this point to address needs, to build up their trenches, get some pass rush, be able to cover outside with a cornerback. And hopefully, you get that transcendent franchise QB. I think Trey Lance has a shot with his athleticism and his dynamism as a passer and runner, that maybe that's what the Jets needed. You get to leverage Sam Darnold. Possibly you get a trade here for another second round pick. Possibly you could be looking at 6 picks in the first 2 days of the NFL draft. That would be a much improvement. And Toney, I think, is a home run pick here for the New York Jets.
And I think overall we did a really good job addressing the key needs and also addressing some essential needs for the quarterback position. You get Trey Lance, you get Kadarius Toney as a weapon. Obviously, the New York Jets would like to address that tight end. I just didn't deem there were enough good ones available at their spots really to make a move. Definitely could have seen one here with this selection, but I really like what we did holistically with this draft.
Yeah, definitely. You're looking at those address needs, and that's really the biggest thing. The Jets have so many holes right now. And in the comments, you might be saying, I picked two, they need this. They need a lot of different things. Honestly, I think the Jets should be leaning towards best player available at some of their needs. At this point, obviously, some positions are more important than others. Tackle being one of those most important. That's why we decided to go that way. I picked two. But quite frankly, there's a lot that could change yet at this point as well. The Jaguars play the Bears tomorrow. That could change the order of the picks here if they do come away with a win. It's unlikely. James Robinson is out. But if they do manage to win, the Jets could still be picking one. Then we'd be seeing Trevor Lawrence go to the New York Jets. There's a lot to monitor yet. So if you guys haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Let us know down in the comments below what you think about our mock draft here for the New York Jets. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.